How many attempts do you think it takes before a lead will actually respond? Welcome back to another episode of 60 Lessons that we've learned in 60 years. Today we're going to talk about the lessons that we've learned in persistence.
So what do you mean when you say persistence pays off?
So studies show that it takes between 16 and 21 times before, or 21 attempts before a lead actually responds. So there's a saying amongst top producers in the real estate industry that all the success is made in the follow-up.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't follow up, somebody else is following up on your client.
Exactly.
Well, can you give me a few examples of how you're persistent?
I think we're very consistent in our marketing initiatives. For instance, a lot of agents think that you're going to do something one time and you're going to get the same result. It doesn't happen that way. You've got to be persistent.
Or a result at all.
Or a result, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
So, we're very surgical in our follow-up techniques. And this includes following up with buyer inquiries whenever they call on a listing. This includes following up with a seller weekly on how their listing status is, home evaluations, just all aspects of our business. We have a follow-up campaign for each item.
Well, can you give me an example of when this theory's worked?
So according to Zillow, everybody knows Zillow, whenever they did a survey about how many of the agents actually call a Zillow lead back, it's only 50%, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
So you have, a live buyer calling on a seller's home, and then Zillow filters that to an agent, and only 50% of those agents are calling back. So, we put a system in place so that all of our buyer inquiries are followed up with immediately. And then after they're followed up with, then we have a campaign that we follow until they do something.
Yeah, it's the same with the agents. When an agent shows our property, we typically call them back that same day. We want to find out what the feedback is. We send them an email that says, hey, can you give us feedback? If we don't get that, we call them back. We had an example where an agent wrote an offer this weekend on a house, 10% under the asking price. Seller was pretty ticked off, to be honest with you, and wasn't happy. So
Didn't respond.
Didn't respond, wasn't going to counter. Called the agent back and she said, hey, we're going to move to house number 2. I'm like, well, what do we have to do to make this work? We chatted for a couple of minutes on the phone, worked out the deal. As of last night, we're less than 2% off the asking price, cash deal, done, signed, all finished. And if we hadn't called, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, remember last week we had got an offer on a property, had a buyer that was on the sidelines. We follow up with that other buyer's agent who ultimately wrote an offer because of our follow-up on that listing.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that this is the key strategy to your success? Persistence?
It's one of them.
Yeah, and I think it benefits our sellers. What happens is it's an aspect of our business that we follow up. We're persistent. If you're persistent, you'll get the deal done. Ultimately, we've trained our whole team. Our team is all about being persistent and getting the deal done. When we get the deal done, then we have happy sellers and happy buyers.
That's correct. So thanks for watching. Join us next week when we answer the common question, what do I need to do to get the most money for my home? Or should I say, what improvements do I need to make so I can get the most money for my home?
Good. See you next week.